What's up guys, and I'm back again. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit bigger. I'm actually going to be replacing the clutch on a car today. So I'm doing a 350Z clutch. It's a 2004. It's the same thing from like 2003 to 2006. And the 2007 to 2009s, I'm pretty sure it's about the same process, but it's a different engine, so I'm not 100% sure. So basically, since the last time I've been on here, I know it's been a little while since I did the video. I know it's been a little while since I've done a video. Since then, I've replaced the wheels on my car. I don't really like the way they look, so they're all right. They're the same wheels off of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. They're the Volks. Oh shit, I'm zoomed away in. They're the Volks GT7s, I believe, and they're really expensive rims, but I'm just not a big fan of the way they look on my car, so probably going to be getting something a little different. But I do have kind of a surprise. I got two cars out of here since the last time I've done a video. So the last time I did a video, I still had the 300ZX in here, which has gotten out, and I'll probably put the video here. It goes completely stripped. And then I also had a 2008 350Z that came through. It was a rollover. But it had some pretty cool stuff on it, like BC coilovers. So you can see they're the BR type. And this one right here, the bottom part is a little bit bent, so you can see that there. So I ordered that from BC, and I ordered a new strut for that entire side. I didn't know if it was bad or not, so I just ordered the whole thing. It didn't cost me too much, and hopefully I'll be doing that install pretty soon. They said that the coilovers are on back order, so I'm just waiting on them to ship that out for me. I'll get back to you guys when I'm putting the car up in the air. Alright guys, so here's the car right here, and this is what we're going to be doing the clutch install on. So I'm going to be dropping the transmission on this today. It's just a guy that comes by and buys parts from me every once in a while, and he asked me if I would do this for him. So I'm going to do it real quick, and then hopefully it's real quick. It doesn't take too long, but the first thing I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to jump inside. And I'm going to start pulling all this stuff right here apart. Start out by twisting this off. Sometimes it's hella hard to get off. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. Alright, so after that's off, this usually pops off. Maybe I'll leave it on there. Alright. Then you just pop this up, just like this. I like to pop it up a little bit and then use this little thing right here, just to be careful with everything. There we go. Then this comes apart. Be really careful with this thing right here, this little ribbon. I feel like it's easier to just do this real quick than to try to pull out the transmission with all of this still in here. This is what I mean about the AC coming on full blast when you don't have this plugged in. Is I'm going to disconnect all these connections, and I'm going to take the wiring harness off of the transmission. So this is going to be a little bit hard to do with this exhaust here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the exhaust system. I'm going to take it off from right here, And then I'm going to unbolt these right here. These are all 14s. These are 14s as well. And then this is a 14. I'm gonna take the catalytic converter bracket off. These are 14s, and then these are 14s right here. All right, so what I'm actually gonna do first is I'm gonna drain this transmission. That way, when I drop the drive shaft, it doesn't leak anything out of the back. And I'm gonna be replacing the transmission fluid with Redline, I think it's MT-85, GL4. Make sure it's GL4. And while I'm waiting on this to drain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start unbolting the other stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to start doing now is unbolting the exhaust. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start disconnecting all the wires for the transmission, because when I drop this transmission I have to disconnect all the wiring that way, because there's no like big plug, there's no like master plug to unplug the transmission from the engine wiring harness, so unfortunately I have to unplug everything. Alright, and what I did is I just marked like a little tiny L on this oxygen sensor plug. And that way I know, so this one's for the left side, and then the other one is pretty self-explanatory. And with this one right here, you can, the one on the farthest top left side of the transmission, you can just fit a flathead screwdriver up in there after you've disconnected all of these ones, so you have a little bit of room to pull on the plug. And all you have to do is stick a flathead screwdriver up in there through right here and pull on it, and it should pop right off. Slave cylinder, two 12mm bolts. Alright. So now I've got all the wiring taken off, so you can see all the wiring off the back is taken off. It's all hanging right here. And now I've got some 14s up along here. I'm pretty sure these two are for the starter, yep. And then you've got a couple of 14s back under here that are kind of trickier to get to. And you've got a 10mm bolt right here. So make sure you take that out, because if you don't, you're just gonna bend this plate when you try to take off the transmission. So two 14s right here, and then up alongside you've got a couple of 14s up here, another one right here, then you've got some 17s further up. So the top is the trickiest part because it's the hardest to get to. Down here is pretty easy, and this is a pretty easy job. The first time I did it, it took me really long, but after I started doing it, I did it a couple of times. Now this is like my 4th time doing this, so it's a little bit easier. Alright, and one of the things I like to do is I'll take a box like this, and then I'll take a razor blade and I'll cut these holes out, or I'll just put an X there, and then I'll put all the bolts that go around the transmission onto this little diagram, so I know exactly where these bolts go back when I'm putting the transmission back on, because some of these bolts are different sizes and stuff. You don't want to mix them up. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, actually I'm not going to start taking these out. I have to take the drive shaft out first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen, damn, I just got the camera positioned. There's a couple of 17s right here on the drive shaft, so there's about 4 of them. I'm going to loosen these up and then take the drive shaft out. Then I'll be pretty much ready to start dropping the transmission. And you want to be careful removing this drive shaft, because you don't want to score the outside of it. Since it's carbon fiber, you don't want it to explode under high pressure. So you want to try your best not to scratch it. So is I'm actually going to lower the car a little bit. I'm going to take out those 10 millimeters that are on the top of the shift linkage. So I'm going to disconnect the shifter, and there's 3 10 millimeter bolts up there, a little rubber boot cover. I'm going to take those out, then there's a 12 down here on the bottom, so I'm going to take the 12 out first, and then I'm going to go up and take those 3 10 millimeters out, pull the shifter out. That way it makes it easier for me to slide the transmission back when, instead of hitting where the shift well, instead of hitting right there, I want to be able to slide it back smoothly. Alright, so earlier when I took this off, I should have taken these 3 10 millimeter bolts out right here. They're underneath this boot. And then remove the shifter. So I'm going to pull this boot up. And make sure you keep these because they're different than regular 10 millimeters. Come on. There it goes. So I just took that little plate off the bottom of the engine, and look how that looks. You can see all the little fibers from the clutch on there, and it's pretty thick. Alright, since I'm not removing this brace right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get behind the brace and take out these 2 14 millimeter bolts that are down here. I already took out that 10 that I was talking about, that when I showed you that little cover with all the fibers on it, that was right here behind here as well, so you need to take that out as well. But right now I'm going to work on getting these 14 millimeters out. Talking about here. So you can see how I labeled everything. Like this is where the starter goes, and got everything labeled here. It makes it a lot easier to put back into the car. Look at that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. This guy's clutch is definitely, if it wasn't bad before, if it wasn't that bad, then it was gonna be bad soon. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower the car. I'm gonna get up on top, and I'm going to show you guys the bolts that you have to take off on the top of the transmission from right behind the top of the engine. I'm gonna kind of show you guys down here. You've got this bracket right here that you've got to take off. It's connected to a hose on the top of the transmission so it can vent, but you've got to take a couple 10 millimeter screws out right here. Then you've got the other 17s, I believe, that are up here that hold the transmission to the block. I just got one of the 10 millimeters loose. I think I've got one more. And I've got one more down here on the bottom. There we go. There's the bottom one. Alright, so this is free. Now we've got a bolt. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's right here. There's one right here, one right here, and there's 2 more on the sides, but a little bit farther down. So I'm going to grab that breaker bar and a 17 millimeter deep socket and start to take these out. The other one is right below the bracket, and it's a little bit harder to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these up in order. Right here. There's another one further down this way. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to show you guys that one. But there's one right here that was underneath that bracket. For this hose. So you can see it here. it holds this little hose right here. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about. So that right there, now that that's out of the way, I got one more deeper down. All right, so that one goes there. And I've only got one more. And this transmission's pretty much free. All right, that's all 4 of them from the top, and I took that bracket off, and all the wiring is disconnected, all the bolts are out. That should be it. All right, so now I'm gonna grab 14 millimeter. I'm gonna grab a 14 millimeter wrench just in case, move this stuff out of the way a little bit, and I'm gonna get under here and I'm gonna jack up this transmission jack. And these transmissions are a little bit heavier in the rear than they are in the front, so maybe I'll move it back just a little bit more. Wow, it's like right there. Where's this 14? So then we've got these bolts to take out here, and we should be able to slide transmission. I'm going to take a little bit of pressure off and see how much this is going to drop, because I don't have anybody here with me right now and I don't want to get hurt. Slowly. Pretty sure just about taking all the pressure off of this mount, so taking it out. Okay, see how it's twisting on me? Let's see, what is the problem here? Okay, rolled over my shirt here. This is getting caught right here. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna check over here and make sure that the shaft, well, I can't really see. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let this down a tiny bit. Oh shit. A little bit more than I wanted it down. And this strap is made to strap up around it, but in the past it's been really hard to strap this to the transmission. I might do it now since I have a little bit more clearance, but the problem is when this goes up, it's really hard to ratchet it. All right, so I pretty much got it out now. Let's see, the shaft is out of the transmission. Hopefully this is recording here. And it is. I don't know if you guys can see that up in there. The shaft is pretty much out of the transmission. So now I'm going to lower the jack a little bit more and see if that works. Okay, now I'm gonna roll it back a little bit more. So the input shaft doesn't hit the cross frame or the well, not subframe, but the brace up there. Looks like I'm gonna strap it now that I've got it out of the car. Well, at least it's strapped to this now. This is an actual Nissan clutch, which means that this bearing is probably really bad. Yeah. Making a lot of noise. It's probably not bad, but it's just making a lot of noise. So we've got a retaining clip back here that I'm gonna have to take off, and then we're gonna slide this bearing off and press this bearing off of this whatever it's called, this little bearing mount, and it just allows it to slide back and forth on the shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first take all this apart, clean this up, clean everything in here out, and then I'm going to start taking the old clutch off and putting the new one on. So whenever you're doing this, don't breathe, like don't blow this out with air, because all these little particles are really bad. So try not to breathe any of this in. So here we go with some brake cleaner. Or actually, I'm gonna take, I'm just gonna spray it down first. I'm gonna pop this pin out. Okay, there's one, there's two. Now this slides off, just like this. See how dirty the back of this one is? And you can see that sound in there. It's not good. All right, so now I'm gonna find a socket to press this out. And I'm gonna have to be pretty careful with this because I don't wanna destroy this at all. So let's see, what kind of sockets? Oh, that looks like it's gonna be perfect. All right. There's the old bearing. And time to put in the new one. I'll be right back. Now this may not be the right way to do this, but I've done it on my girlfriend's car and I did it on mine, and my car has, I put now like 30,000 miles on my car, maybe even closer to 40, and I've never had any problems with my clutch. All right, everything's good. The way this comes off of this pivot ball, I don't even remember how it comes off. Does it just snap off? Yeah, it just pops out. Okay. Holy shit, there's hella buildup on that. Clutch and everything else off. So we have all of these 12mm bolts. I'm gonna take this pressure plate off, and then I've got the clutch disc, and yeah, so I'm gonna set the camera up and then I'm gonna get to it. This one is toast. You can see all the rivets. Come on. All the rivets are all the way down. All of them. This clutch is done for. All right, so I'm just gonna clean this up. I'm actually gonna grab my pan so this stuff doesn't leak all over the place. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean off this this new pressure plate. Now after I cleaned it off with this, I'm just going to spray it off one more time. Get all the fibers from this towel off. And then I'm going to grab the alignment tool and the clutch. Here's the actual clutch disc. Hell, a no-name brand. Doesn't say anything on here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to snug all these up with the socket wrench, and then I'm going to torque them down with the torque wrench. Hopefully I don't have to have my friend here hold the crank bolt on the front where the crank pulley is. Hopefully I don't have to do that, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so my GoPro is about to die. I'm going to turn it off and switch over to the other camera. Alright guys, so now I'm going to tighten these down. I'm using a torque wrench. I'm going to tighten these the pressure plate bolts down to 25 foot-pounds. There's that one. Below. There's that one. Alright, so since my camera decided to run out of memory, I got everything back up. I don't know how much you guys saw in that last clip because it just automatically stopped recording, but I torqued all these down, and now I'm going to start putting the transmission back up. Alright, so I lightly put one of these in already, so I'm just going to screw it all the way in by hand. Alright guys, it's hella late. I finished up bolting these up here, the lower transmission mount. I actually did other stuff today. I sold all those transmissions and stuff that were over here. I had to drop all this, do all this as well. But it's pretty much all up. I have to bolt the starter back up. I'm gonna finish doing this in the morning because the guy's coming to pick up his car tomorrow. I'm gonna text him right now. All I gotta do is finish putting the exhaust up. And that's, oh, and I gotta fill up the transmission, which I'm gonna fill up with Redline MT-85. I think I mentioned it earlier, but it is GL4, so that's good. So, alright guys, so I'm back again. It's the next day, it's the morning. It's, it's California, and it's 61 degrees right now, and it feels pretty cold to me. But, so, I'm finishing up this car. I think I showed you guys last night. Everything is pretty much put back together. All I have to do is put the wiring harness back in here, and then put the drive shaft up, finish up the interior, put the starter in, and put this exhaust back in as well. So everything is pretty much tight now on the transmission and the bell housing. The wire harness is back up and the catalytic converter bracket is back up. And I plugged in the O2 sensors. The gaskets are still here for the Y pipe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the car a little bit, get on the inside, bolt back down the shift assembly. And then after I bolt that down, I have to come back under here, bolt this 12 millimeter back through the shift bar. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease in here. And then all of this goes back into place. So I'm just going to down just like that. There's a little notch right here on the side as well. It slides right into there. Then you have this plate here, which this part right here goes on the passenger side as well. So over here. And then you have those special screws . There's a 12 millimeter right here. This is why I didn't want to mess with the top, because I didn't want this to spin. Alright, so now I'm going to start filling the transmission. I'm going to have to grab, where did I put my little section? Oh, there it is. So this thing kind of sucks sometimes. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. This thing kind of sucks sometimes, but it just takes a long time to siphon out of the bottle because you just have to sit there and keep doing this, and then it'll do that. It'll get stuck, so you have to pull it back up yourself. And it's pretty, it's useful, but at the same time, it's kind of difficult. Like, for one bottle of tranny fluid, it'll probably take like 3 or 4 minutes just for one bottle. So I'm gonna start doing that now. Well, for some reason the suction isn't working on this. Alright, so I have this bottle of GL4 from Nissan transmission fluid. It's already opened. It's got like about maybe a third of it left. And I'm just going to pour that Redline into here. Since this is the Nissan fluid anyways, it doesn't really matter if you mix them. This has the additives that Nissan recommends. So maybe it'll even be a little bit better. So. There it goes. Both of those are tight. Transmission's full. Pretty sure everything is tightened up. This is pretty much everything I used. The guy took the car already, so right when he walked in here, he just kind of wanted to get on his way. So I stopped recording. He didn't want to be on camera. So this is pretty much all the stuff I used: an oil pan, brake cleaner, the Redline MT-85. I used a tiny bit of the Nissan GL4 75W85 just for to top it off at the end, because it takes 3.25 quarts in the transmission. So both guns, and I'll probably put a list of everything here and the description. I use the transmission jack. I use this little diagram to help keep track of the bolts. This jack. Alright guys, so I think I'm going to pretty much end this video here. It's been a long process. It didn't take me too long. Honestly, I probably could have done all this in about 3-4 hours if I was doing it by myself and I wasn't recording the whole time, because just setting up this camera and then moving it, trying to get angles, stuff like that is a little, it's hard to, it takes a little bit of time. So yeah, so if you like this content, you know, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. This video is going to take me forever to edit, so please, you know, hit that like button if I helped you out with changing your clutch. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll probably be doing the review on the sway bars next, and then I'll be doing possibly coilovers and stuff like that. So let me know what you guys want to see in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.